Hey, welcome back to the Positive Side Podcast. It's the host Jeremy Todd. Glad you're tuning in. It's been a minute. I get it. It's been tough though. I've got all the excuses in the world, and I think you can probably relate to this. Like, no matter what you're going through in your life, you always have excuses about whatever you want to accomplish, whatever the goal is, and then again, we are the easiest people to sell ourselves the reasons why we don't need and want to do the things that we're supposed to do. So we go down this pathway, like we sell ourselves reasons. Well, I don't need to do one because I've done enough. I don't need to do a podcast. I got nothing to say. My podcasts aren't good enough. And I'm sure you're probably thinking a lot of these things, whatever the area in your life of what you're thinking. It's what I go through. And the beautiful thing about the Positive Side Podcast is it's real, it's authentic, it's true, it's who I am. No gray areas at all. This is live and uncut. I don't edit any of my podcasts. I just speak from the heart. I don't like the word to say either, but neither here nor there. 517,068 downloads so far. 517,000 podcasts. Wow. Or listens. Man, that's a lot of support. And man, today's episode we're gonna talk a little bit about depression and funks, and I've been in one for a long time, man, and ups and downs. And I think this is true with pretty much everybody out there in the universe, the galaxy, listening to this podcast. That, for me, I'll use myself as an example, like I always do, and you can relate to the best way you can. I struggle a lot, and um, and again, I'm not looking for, oh my God, hey, Jeremy, it's okay. You're going to be great. I'm not looking for any rah stuff. It's just part of my life. It's part of who I am. It's part of who I've been my entire life. And if you read the book, the Positive Side Podcast, or the Positive Side, there's the book. And if you're watching it on YouTube, I talk a little bit about that as well. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a verse that's kind of been in my head lately. And I haven't had the guts or the drive or the want to talk about it. But I'm going to talk about it a little bit tonight. Depression is an interesting thing. It's very interesting. And when you use the word, for me, when I hear that word, the first thing my thought to my mind is like this hardcore depression where you contemplate taking your life. I am not at that point. I've been there. It's been a long time, but there are so many variations, and my definition of depression and my variation of depression is probably different than yours. I'm sure it's different than yours. It may be similar, but there's extreme, there's a lot less. But it's important that we talk about it because it's reality, it's life. I'm strangely proud of it because I continually talk about it, and I don't want to make it like it's just reality. It's the reality that I deal with, and I think majority of people probably deal with some version of it or some time. Now, if I go back to the last 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, I've struggled with it. And it's interesting because I try and balance myself out. Are there more positive days than negative days? And then I try and compartmentalize that within a week. Are there more positive days in that week or more negative days in that week when it comes to depression? And I would say over the last 6, 8, 9, 10 months, it's probably 50-50. I've had a lot of great weeks. I've had a lot of great weeks. I've had a lot of terrible weeks. I've had a lot of weeks where out of the 7 days, 4 have been really good. And I've had some of the weeks that 4 have been really bad. It's been really 50-50 for me. And I get in these funks. And I want to talk about this so it's more upfront and more conversational, because it shouldn't be something that we should hide away from or not talk about it. Because I feel when we don't talk about it, we end up turning that into more negative than positive, and it almost gets more and more and more and more until it gets sometimes too tough for us to handle. It needs to be talked about more. And I want to reference, again, this isn't a cheap plug, but this is something I wrote, and I thought about this, and this is really why it made me jump on the podcast today. I wrote in my book that I wrote a couple of years ago, and again, the book, cheap plug, go to Amazon, buy it, of course. But it's like 80, it's 80, no, it's not even 80, it's 78 pages. And I always joke around that I've never written more than a paragraph in my entire life, barely graduated high school, not the smartest guy in the world, but even me wrote even I wrote a book. Yeah, even me wrote a book. Even I wrote a book. But there's this interesting thing that came to my mind one night, and I wrote, it's called The Depression Fog. And if it's okay with you, I'm gonna read it. If it's not okay with you, I'm gonna read it. When I'm depressed, I feel like I'm in a fog. During the fog of depression, there's a slow motion to my life. It almost plays out like a movie. My dreams, goals, and passions become visible only in black and white. The image that comes to mind is like a fog rolling in over the ocean in like London. And I put that in there because you could see that like in the old school, old timey movies when the fog rolls in. That's the way I look at this. All I can see is people wearing long trench coats and smoking pipes. The image is filled with rain, cold, and a lonely light post that is barely lit. Even writing this, the sense of cold comes in my body. Like, can you imagine yourself in this position? And this is what I look at it like. And again, I'm still going, I'm still walking, but I just notice it's like, it's just sad and lonely and dark and drizzly. Imagine being super excited about a certain event going on in your life, maybe a graduation party, a wedding reception, or any kind of party. Now imagine the same event with rain or even in gray. Sure, the event's fun, but the edge is taken off. The things you are excited to get done still get done. However, they are not as excited as you would hope. And this is translates into my life. And I would assume it does for you too. If you're listening to this, maybe not. But even when things are going really, really good, there are times that I self-sabotage myself. And I look for reasons to not give myself the permission to be happy and be successful and be loved. And I know that I am. But it's something that's ingrained in my DNA that I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just tough for me to see. And I continue on. I skipped a little bit here, but I can see myself walking down a cold, wet road. It's a windy night. As I make my way through the night, I inevitably step into a puddle and get my shoes and socks wet. I can feel the water slosh around on my shoe. My shoes are crazy heavy. I feel like I'm just trying to get to the next block, but the next block is exactly the same. And I use that as an example of the next block. It could be the next week. It could be the next day. It could be anything. And it's like the next thing. It's just the next thing. It's just like, man, like where does this block or this walking, this gray stop? And to be honest, I'll put the book down. I'd love for you to buy the book. It'd be great. It's like $12, no big deal. But I think about this a lot to where it's part of my life. What's my alternative? Is my alternative to be miserable, to be woe is me, to be my life sucks, I'm so stressed out? Is that my life? Or can I make a physical, psychological change and force it? I know you don't want to hear it because there's no magic pill with this. Force myself to be happy, to have now having an attitude of gratitude helps. It helps more than probably anything I've ever done in my life. It's not, sometimes I just sit back and just look at what's surrounded by me. And, for long-time listeners, we've talked about this. If you go back to me in California, sitting in the back room, looking out broke, not having a place to live, or me filing bankruptcy years and years ago, the stories go on, but it's always following me in life. So what are my two choices? To continue to try and let's put it this way, to continue to go down the easy path. And I say that with all gratitude and all respect and all understanding of the negative side. Or do I go down the really, really hard side of being positive? The positive side. Cheap plug. Again, I've said that word a lot, cheap plug, a lot of times tonight, but It's not easy. It's not easy. Some things that help: sleep. I think even in my book, I talk about that. When times are really, really tough, sometimes I just go to bed. And I know you had this vision. This is what I vision I have of depression sinks in. You got this person in this bed, and they got the blankets pulled over their head and the pillow over their head, and they're just sitting there miserable in the dark. Even some of that, I've been there as well. But sometimes just rest allows your mind and allows your body to reset itself. You feel better. Exercise. You feel better. Going out in the sun, I feel better. Shutting the radio off in my car, I feel better. Not allowing the stresses of my job, of my career to bog me down because I'm so blessed to have this opportunity. It's not easy. Life is not easy. Life is very hard, but I'm not willing to give up. And this message is really geared towards people that maybe that's what they're thinking. It's time to give up. I'm not ready to give up. It's crossed my mind a long time ago. But I'm going to keep working and challenging myself and pushing myself and understanding the triggers and what makes me happy and my lifestyle and the relationships I hold and the family relationships, the work relationships, the authenticity. No, I'm not giving up, and I don't want you to give up either. But and again, I hope this message resonates with you tonight. My podcasts really don't go that long as it is, but I needed to talk about it because it's been on my mind a lot. And it's okay. It's okay that it's on my mind a lot. It's okay. Because things in my life are slowly but surely getting better. It's a great book, 10% Happier by Dan Harris. If you haven't listened to it, listen to it. He's brilliant. I listened to his book. He reads it. He's brilliant. And he talks about, I'm not trying to be a different version of myself tomorrow. Like, I'm not trying to go from depressed to the happiest person on the planet in one day. Then I ask you this same question. Can you and I be 10% happier? Not a lot, 10%. 10% tips, not a lot, but can we get 10% happier tomorrow? And you break that down into 10%. Okay, so how many hours am I up? How many things go on in my day? And if I keep that and I write it down on a piece of paper, 10% happier, the one time throughout the day that typically would trigger you to be upset, you tell yourself, you know what, 10% happier. Write the piece of paper, write the note down, put it on your car, put it on your office, put it on your mirror in your window, in your restroom or your bathroom. 10% happier. Can you be 10% happier? And I guarantee you, if you do that daily, and I haven't done it, but it's something that, that's what I love about this podcast. It's me talking out loud to become the best version of myself to help relate to you. Can you and I become 10% happier tomorrow? And you know what? If it doesn't work tomorrow, can you and I be 10% happier Saturday, Sunday, Monday? And all of a sudden we start gathering these wins together. And over time, it just makes our home base, what we're built on, stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. Sure, there's going to be cracks in the foundation of this house, but the house is still standing. I'll patch it up here and there. We'll lift this board up in the basement and we'll do these things to try and make the house stronger and stronger and stronger. But if I can build a house of confidence, of positive attitude, of emotional strength, over time, and we've done this throughout this podcast, we've done this throughout the book, we've done this over time, that the lows aren't that low anymore. We still have them. They're not going away. Let's be real. They're not going to go away. And they may go for a time, a day, 2 days, 3 days, a week, a month, 6 months for me. But we can continue to build upon this. And I promise you'll turn around a year from now and you'll be in a better position to be able to deal with your issues and your depression issues than you are right now. But we got to make it real. You and me. Yeah, you and me. We're going to make this real. We've got this. The Positive Side Podcast, 500 and whatever, 17,000 listens. Wow, that's crazy. 20,000, just about 20,000 followers on Facebook now. Crazy. Because we're all in it together. If you have a chance, run over to the Positive Side Podcast. Grab the book. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram. Friend me on personally. I don't care. Hey, whatever. It's important. It's important to you. It's important to me. I share stuff on Facebook that is important. This will be on YouTube also. And leave those 5-star reviews on iTunes. I haven't had one in a while. It'd mean the world to me if you just took an extra 30 seconds and leave that 5-star review. It allows other people to find the show. I say it in every single episode, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. You've got greatness within. Like always, this is The Positive Side.